The architecture of a ruling, forging precision in Talmudic law. The Talmud is more than a law code. It is the record of its own construction. We will explore a single passage from Tractate Chullin to understand this process. We begin with a foundational rule from the Mishnah and watch as later sages, the Gemara, add layers of clarification, challenge its limits, and buttress it with logic. Our analysis will focus on two fundamental questions a slaughterer must ask. First, how long must the knife be? This is the question of length. Second, what shape must it have? This is the question of form. The Mishnah provides the foundation. The Gemara builds the framework of inquiry and proof upon it. Part 1. The question of length. The Mishnah establishes the initial rule for a specific scenario, a slaughter where the animal is decapitated in a single continuous motion. The Mishnah states, in a case where one was in the process of slaughtering the animal in the standard manner and he decapitated the animal in one motion, if the length of the knife is equivalent to the breadth of the animal's entire neck, the slaughter is valid. This is the baseline requirement. For a single motion decapitation to constitute valid shchita, the knife must span the full width of the neck. If the knife is shorter than the neck's width, the slaughter is invalid. The Mishnah, the foundational layer of the Talmud, compiled around 200 CE, gives us this starting point. Rabbi Zeira, a later sage, adds a critical and ambiguous detail to the ruling of the Mishnah. The knife must not only match the neck's width, but exceed it. The Gemara records, Rabbi Zeira says, the knife must be equivalent to the breadth of the animal's entire neck and extend beyond the neck. Mulot tzavar v'chutz letzavar. But this statement contains an unasked question. How far beyond? How much additional length is required? The sages in the Gemara immediately identify the ambiguity in the statement of Rabbi Zeira and raise a formal dilemma, an ibaya lahu. The Gemara asks, did Rabbi Zeira mean equivalent to the breadth of the animal's entire neck and extend beyond the neck by an amount equivalent to the breadth of the entire neck? Or perhaps he meant, and beyond the neck by any amount? Two possible interpretations emerge. Option 1. Neck width plus any amount. The knife need only be marginally longer than the neck. Option 2. Neck width plus full neck width. The knife must be twice the width of the neck. The difference is substantial. Which interpretation is correct? To resolve the dilemma, the Gemara turns to another ruling from the Mishnah concerning the simultaneous slaughter of two animals. The Gemara suggests, come and hear proof. If one was in the process of slaughtering two animals simultaneously, if the length of the knife is equivalent to the breadth of an entire neck of one of the animals, the slaughter is valid. At first glance, this statement seems counterintuitive. How could a knife sufficient for one neck be enough for two? The key lies in deconstructing the exact meaning of the phrase. The Gemara tests the literal meaning of the phrase from the Mishnah and finds it logically inconsistent. The Gemara reasons, if we say that it means the breadth of one entire neck and nothing more, that is difficult. Now, for the slaughter of one animal, we require that the knife be longer than the neck. For the slaughter of two animals, is it possible that a knife equivalent to one neck would be sufficient? The literal reading is impossible. The phrase must mean something else. The sages conclude it must mean the knife must be long enough to cover both necks, plus the length of one additional neck beyond them. The minimum knife length for two necks is not one neck width, it's 3 neck widths, 2 to span both necks, plus one additional neck width beyond. The ruling in the two-animal case establishes a principle. The required extra length, beyond the neck, is a full measure of the object being cut. Applying this principle back to the original dilemma of one animal provides the answer. The Gemara concludes, learn from the Mishnah that Rabbi Zeira means that the length of the knife must be equivalent to the breadth of the animal's entire neck and extend beyond the neck by the breadth of the entire neck. The final ruling on length. The required knife length is 2 times the breadth of the animal's neck. Option 1, neck width plus any amount, is rejected. Option 2, neck width plus full neck width, is confirmed. The knife must equal twice the neck's width. Part 2. The question of form. The Mishnah reveals that the length requirement applies only to a single motion slaughter. If the slaughterer uses a back and forth cutting motion, the rules change dramatically. The Mishnah states, in what case is this statement said? It is when one drew the knife back and did not draw it forth, or drew it forth and did not draw it back. But if he drew it back and forth, even if the knife was of any length, even if he slaughtered with a scalpel, Ismail, the slaughter is valid. 2 fundamentally different scenarios emerge. Single motion slaughter, rule knife length equals 2 times neck width. Back and forth motion, rule any length is valid. Even a scalpel is permitted. The motion transforms the requirements entirely. Rav Menashe clarifies that the leniency of the Mishnah for a scalpel is not absolute. The tool's form is paramount to ensure a valid cut. The Gemara records, Rav Menashe said, this is the halakha in the case of a scalpel that does not have protrusions from the sides, karnaim. If there are protrusions, there is concern that the corners may perforate the simanim, windpipe and esophagus, and invalidate the slaughter. The tool must cut cleanly, not pierce or tear. A valid scalpel has a smooth, flat cutting edge that draws across the simanim cleanly. An invalid scalpel has protrusions or pointed edges that may perforate or tear the neck tissues. Form matters as much as length. To test the limits of the rule, Rav Atha, son of Rav Avya, poses a challenge. What about a tool that is all point and no edge? The Gemara records, Rav Acha, what is the halacha with regard to slaughter with a needle, mafhat? Rav Menashe responds, a needle pierces the simanim, mivza beza, as it perforates the neck instead of cutting it. A needle cannot perform shechita. The action is piercing. And the result is invalid. Rabbi refines his question, proposing a tool that is both small and sharp, a cobbler's needle, machat de ushkafe, which is flat with cutting edges. This prompts a close reading of the text of the Mishnah. The Gemara presents a question. Could the phrase in the Mishnah, even if the knife was of any length, refer to a cobbler's needle? An objection arises. No, the Gemara says. That phrase is explained by the next word, scalpel. But a counter-objection follows. But the Mishnah already mentions scalpel explicitly. Why repeat it? The explanation. The mention of scalpel is not a new case. It is the definition of the phrase in the Mishnah, any length. What is the knife of any length with which slaughter is valid? It is a scalpel. The Gemara offers a final proof for its textual interpretation, revealing a deeper legal principle. Why did the Mishnah need to state explicitly that a valid scalpel is permitted? The Gemara explains. It could enter your mind to say, let the sages issue a decree, Zeira, prohibiting the use of a scalpel with no protrusions due to the prohibition against using a scalpel with protrusions. One might think, prohibit even valid scalpels to prevent confusion with invalid ones. The statement of the Mishnah is necessary to teach a higher order rule. In this specific case, no such precautionary decree was made. A valid tool remains permitted even if it resembles an invalid one. This reveals a fundamental principle. The sages do not issue blanket prohibitions when precise distinctions can be maintained. Through layers of inquiry, proof, and textual analysis, a simple rule is forged into a precise and robust legal structure. On length for a single motion, the standard is rigor. The knife must be twice the neck's breadth, a principle derived by applying logic from a parallel case. The formula, knife length equals 2x neck width. On form for a back and forth motion, the standard is function. The tool must cut, not pierce. The sages permit any tool that functions correctly, deliberately choosing not to issue a precautionary decree against otherwise valid instruments. Valid scalpels are permitted. Invalid scalpels with protrusions are forbidden. No precautionary decree was issued. What began as a simple Mishnah ruling has been refined, tested, and built into a comprehensive legal architecture, precise in its measurements, principled in its reasoning, and elegant in its structure.